no matter where I've been in my life and in my career, I've looked for those opportunities, those lightweight, meaningful innovations that can leverage what technology is there. And if it's emergent, great. But will it matter? Will it make a difference? Will we remember it? Will it become part of our life one day?
Hi, I'm Tracy Lovejoy.
And I'm Shannon Lucas. We are the co-CEOs of Catalyst Constellations, which is dedicated to empowering Catalyst to create bold, powerful change in the world.
This is our podcast, Move Fast, Break Shit, Burnout, where we speak with Catalyst executives about ways to successfully lead transformation in large organizations. Today, we are incredibly excited to have time with the Chief Design Officer at TIAA and my very longtime colleague, and I like to think a friend, Melora Zaner. Melora, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk to you guys.
Me too. And for note, Melora is also one of the very early inspirations for the work that we got to do around what it is to be a catalyst. So just a little heads up of kind of the impact that she's had on our journey and lives. So, Melora, we'd love to turn it over to you and get to hear about your catalytic journey. Can you introduce yourself, share a few of your career highlights that you're incredibly, and proud of that show your catalytic nature in action?
Well, I'm going to just start with the formal piece of this, and then we'll go off on what this journey has been like. But as you said, right now I am the Chief Design Officer at TIAA. It's such a purpose-driven opportunity. We are addressing the retirement crisis in America, and to be Chief Design Officer at a time when this 100-year-old company is looking to really have a voice in people's ability to retire with dignity. I mean, that should speak to the catalytic nature in all of us. So being in this role, I'm able to lever my strengths. Tracy, as you mentioned, we've known each other a long time when I was a designer and you were a researcher. And I've stayed on that path. And through the design journey that I've been on, it's led me to this place where I'm able to truly build on everything I've learned and lead a design-led culture, really focusing on the variety of craft required to do breakthrough work that helps create a vision that is truly end-to-end holistic and is unlocking innovation and inspiring and empowering our clients, our customers, to really pursue retirement security. That was a lot of words, probably some expensive words in there, but I had to say all of that because, wow, sometimes I have to pinch myself that I'm actually sitting in the seat and doing this meaningful work. But I think it was intentional. I have a very good friend who said, she's guided me throughout later in my life and my career, and she has said, you want to be firm in intention, but flexible in form. So I started as a punk rocker. I mean, I started writing songs when I was 6 years old. And then, I went to college, and of course, just like a lot of college folks, found my band, and my parents made me promise I would finish and get my degree. And as soon as I got my degree, I was off traveling the country as the, lead singer and songwriter for this punk band. And I say that because I've always been firm with intention. It has been about creating space for people to connect in meaningful ways through the art of song, storytelling, or design. That I would end up in design felt like a natural extension of that. And, we got into some really good trouble together when we were working together, and we did some really meaningful work. And that's what got me hooked on, a song is not necessarily going to save the world. I mean, it's going to have meaning and it'll be part of our culture. But you've got to be really lucky to have that song that breaks through and becomes that thing that changes people's mindsets. And what I found was in the work that we did together, I found that we could actually do something similar, create environments for people to build history and memories together, have meaningful exchange. And through that actually have an impact on the world. So Tracy and I worked on a project that led to a really meaningful innovation. And this was being able to send those animated stickers that everybody sends today in iMessage, WeChat, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger. But what's so meaningful about that is technology comes and goes. And I like to say, it's just like in music. Songs last longer than the singer. So technology comes and goes, but that's those experiences on top that are everlasting. So while the singer may fade, it's the song that stays in our memory. Just as MSN Messenger is gone today, and that was something we worked on, it's gone. However, everybody uses this innovation. Everybody uses it. It's like oxygen. It's just become part of our lexicon, how we communicate. And that is what hooked me in. And no matter where I've been in my life and in my career, I've looked for those opportunities, those lightweight, meaningful innovations that can leverage what technology is there. And if it's emergent, great. But will it matter? Will it make a difference? Will we remember it? Will it become part of our life one day? Always looking for those opportunities. And I think that's part of my catalytic nature and why I would end up at a nonprofit focused on retirement. You know, of course I would. Why not?
I have goosebumps down my arms. That idea, you just so beautifully exemplified the being firm in intention, but that flexibility, that you have that core sense of purpose of the difference you want to make and how it can really be lived in a lot of different lives. And we often talk to catalysts about that our resumes can look not like a straight line.
Yeah.
You've given us a really beautiful foundation to understand that journey. We usually talk about it as seeking kind of the next challenge, but you've really challenged the way we talk about it, of that it's seeking the next way that I can live my purpose,
Right.
which is really, that's lovely. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that version of your journey. So you've already been giving us clues in this way. In your words, how do you relate to the concept of catalyst?
Well, when I first heard the word, I just immediately said, oh, of course, there it is. I've always felt a bit of a fish out of water. Um, I thought it must be because I'm a punk rocker. But I've inevitably found myself in uncomfortable situations. And I like being in those situations. I mean, me being a college graduate, the only female in a punk rock band, um, it was an uncomfortable situation, touring with a bunch of guys, playing in a bunch of clubs where there were other men, and often being the only woman performing that night, to ending up at Microsoft, standing in front of, 400 male engineers saying, but sending an animated kiss matters, or living in China for over 10 years. And often being the only American, the only woman, the only designer in the room. And just to know that there was a name for it. And I knew I needed to be there. And I felt like corporate America needs us. But I couldn't find others like me. It was always hard because I think I myself felt other than, and I reveled in it. And at the same time, I found it very lonely. Um, and as I started to learn to look for others like me, I didn't have a word for it to help us coalesce around. So the word catalyst was just so meaningful because I said, that's it. Because to say we're change agents or innovators or rebels or punk rockers or whatever label you want to give us, it wasn't enough. And I think catalyst is the spark of the beginning of something. And it just leaves it open for how we want to embrace that and move it forward.
Yeah. And you can see I have, our book right here. I think for Shannon and I both, we talk about the reason the lightning bolt is that it's the like, oh my gosh, it hit me, that word. But it's also, to your point, the punk rack. It's, I don't know if you can see it well, but it's meant to be like a tag, right? That it's like, spray paint. So it's both, right? It's
Yes.
we're meant to be here. How do I leave our mark? And also that like, oh, that's me. Right.
That's
So
right.
perfect description. And how does being a catalyst support you as an executive now that you're sitting at these ranks that you're in?
Um, you know, initially, I just didn't want to ever be an executive. I never thought I was cut out for it. I mean, look at me. Like I don't look like your average executive. If you look at my background, you look at the way I made dress, my hair being odd colors at times, just because I like to play with life. Um, I didn't ever feel that I would be considered as executive material, honestly. And then there was this point where I think it was I think his name's Brian Chesky who created Airbnb. He was a designer and he became a CEO. And I'm like, hey, now, wait a minute, we can do that. And why haven't I thought of that before? And then it became one of those things of, and why not me? And why not someone like me? And isn't that needed?
Mhm.
And I started leaning into that and really getting intentional about it, but flexible in how it might show up for me, but just really leaning into it and really working on what is that voice that I would like to have? What are the changes I would like to see? What are some of the really good hard problems I could look at and turn around and see in a new way that would be something that, um, being in an executive position, I could have the purview to really initiate. Because I like to start little revolutions here and there. And I just like it served me, and being part of the community has really served me because I don't feel alone. And I have found others out there like myself who were unlikely and yet doing the breakthrough work, doing meaningful work, doing important work, and doing it from that seat and recognizing that we have a place, we have a voice, and we have a purpose, and we are needed. As I
Mhm.
look at how fast technology in science are moving, exponentially faster than ever before,
Mhm.
we are needed in the executive seats because we can help navigate the speed that is going to be needed from the corporations today.
I have
It's
so many questions aligned to that. So I'm excited for Shannon to dive in.
Yeah, and it's really crazy. So you were talking about community. You're part of our Catalyst Leadership Trust. One of the other members, Melora, just yesterday asked me the question. We had a whole other conversation at the end. She's like, "I saw your post on social, and I'm super curious." She's like, "Do you think that Catalysts can be CEOs?" And I'd love for you to answer that because it just builds on where you were taking that conversation.
I would say 1,000%, and I work for one. Tashunda Brown Duckett is our CEO, and she and I got into some similar good trouble, like I did with Tracy back in the day, where we worked at JP Morgan Chase together, and we really did good work in understanding young people and how their emotions impact their ability to save money.
Mm.
And it was such good work because she sat there with us, really understanding young people, where their mindsets are, what their behaviors are, really appreciating the need for behavioral shifts and mindset shifts that need to occur to help young people be able to save for their future. And after that project, I promised myself if she ever calls, I'm coming running. And when I saw her turn up at TIAA, I knew it. I knew it. This was it. If she called, this was it. My father is a participant of this program. His retirement is with TIAA. It's been for years, since I guess early 70s, he told me. He was a professor of philosophy who pioneered medical ethics. He's one of the early pioneers of medical ethics. So here he is, a philosopher in a white coat. And who would expect him to have retired in the way he has? My mother, an activist, fine artist. And yet I have never had to worry about them in their retirement because they had TIAA. And I've always been grateful for that. So when she came to this company where I saw what this company does for teachers, I was like, that's it, I'm in. So yes, And when you have a company that is over 100 years old and wants to be relevant for another 100 years and wants to address the retirement crisis in America, I think we're really lucky to have a catalyst as our CEO because she's paving the way, and she has purpose, and she has a sense of urgency, and she's fearless.
I'm a little teary also with the goosebumps. That just full disclosure. So my late great mom who passed, who was my catalyst mentor, she had a lot of her retirement savings with TIAA, and it's also meant the same thing to the family, Melora. So thank you for that. But also just the inspiration about like these pivot moments when these massive organizations with big history are doing great things. The opportunity to have the CEO catalyst, the catalyst CEO, get you to be relevant for the next 100 years is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, that was an off-script question, but I just had to ask it, so I'll bring it back a little bit later. Sort of. Can you share one or two of the biggest challenges you faced as a catalyst executive, and maybe what helped you in overcoming some of those challenges?
Oh, I actually really like challenges a lot. In fact, if it's easy, I end up questioning myself. Am I really looking at this in the right way? Do I need to see this in another way? Because I think that's when we get breakthroughs. We get to have the hard conversations. We get to um, really get human and think through the necessary things to consider to make meaningful change, to have breakthrough products and services, to initiate something new for someone's career. You got to be willing to have those conversations. But something now that I'm in this executive role, something I have seen, and I've always been somewhat aware of because I've been stuck in the middle, is truly middle management. We have to be very keenly aware of top down and bottom up, and then those in the middle that get caught and pulled in both directions. For a company to move at the speed of the market and the speed of technology, right? It's important that we keep evolving and that we challenge the status quo. But when you do that, you've got to also honor a company's current challenges. You have to honor its cultural DNA. You have to find the opportunities within those to help the company move forward. I liken it to something I call the art of skydiving while time traveling. You have to be able to see the big picture view while diving in and seeing the details. Meanwhile, always being aware of your past, your present, and your future, where you might go. So while skydiving, be able to time travel. Now, TIAA is a prime example of that. I truly believe we are in that moment. But while doing that, we have to be hyper focused on our clients. We're taking them on a journey of change as well. We also have to have that mindset of caring for those inside our company going through this journey,
Yeah.
ensuring that those at the top are in on it too. And we've got consistency of language and tension. Those at the bottom understand how it connects to their work as they push their work up and forward. And then our managers in the middle, I think it's truly important to ensure you're bringing them in along the way, giving them a voice in the changes, involving them in the decisions wherever you can, so that you can co-create with them in the same ways that we should be co-creating with our customers, ensuring that we are iterating with them along the way, that they can see themselves in the changes we're making. They feel heard, they feel seen, they have a voice. And then as the outcome emerges, they can say, there I am, or there's my idea. Or if it's our clients, our customers, they're saying, you heard me, and this is so much better, right? I think we can't lose sight of that challenge of bringing middle management along.
you just encapsulated like everything that we've been talking about as a company, this balance between like, we know we have to change and challenge the status quo, but the compassion and empathy that you bring, Melora, to recognizing there's an amazing foundation to build on. We don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We need to keep not just the lights on, but keep some of the things that got us to this amazing place today, while recognizing that the people in the middle aren't always meaningfully included in that pivot process into the future for of the company and bringing them along. So I'm wondering, like, I hear the challenge. So as you're doing it, maybe just to double click a little bit more on like, how are you in TIA doing that and bringing the people along? It's like, it's easy to say, but like, there's a big middle there with a lot of middle managers.
I think it's part of, it's that old adage of practice what you preach. If we want to be client-centric, we want to be customer-focused and leverage human-centered methodologies where we can build true empathy for who we serve, what they are going through in their lives, we need to also be able to do that internally.
Yeah.
That's the authenticity. If we are looking for our clients to trust us, we also have to have trust within. And so I see it as just this whole complete ecosystem of the ways in which we listen to those we serve. We also are listening to those who are serving. There are a lot of programs where we are truly listening to our associates. We call our employees associates. We're truly listening to them. We're creating opportunities for them to have impact where they can explore outside of their current skills and actually try on other roles and try, in like an apprenticeship to learn from others if they want to grow their career. We take our engagement surveys super seriously. We co-create solutions with them on things that bubble up in our surveys. We really treat the associate experience as something we have to co-create and design in the same way we are doing this with our clients. So I just think that there's this authentic thread that runs throughout. There's nothing like having a client sit with you and work with them through the art of storytelling. We just did a workshop with a client where my peers said, why don't you just ask them? What are their pain points? What do they need? And I said, we could do that, or we could have them tell us a story of their day. And out of that, we'll have conversations where we can unpack things that we might have missed, but also we'll get new insights. We take that same approach with our associates because by leveraging their stories, creating moments where they can tell their stories, we're able to learn so much more about ways we can serve them and help them grow. And just like you want to have those breakthrough products and services through those kinds of exercises with your customers, we can't forget to apply that same thing internally and hold the mirror up to ourselves and use the same techniques within. And we are doing that here.
It's such a great reminder for Catalyst because, we can be so, in a good way, we can be so customer obsessed or like looking for the new market opportunity or how we're improving the customer experience, all of the external things. But I love sort of the like meta embodiment of bringing those skills that work when you're engaging customers into the internal one. And I'm guessing, I'd love your thought, but it becomes part of the proof point and the actual bringing people on the journey, because if they're experiencing how powerful that process is for them, like, oh, no one at work has ever asked me that question or involved me in those conversations. Now I can understand why we need to do that in different ways as we reach out into the market.
You know what? I'm so glad you brought this up because this reminds me of, when I was talking about, you really need to understand a company's DNA, their cultural DNA, before you come in and try to radical change. You want to do it within that DNA. But what needed to really shift, and when Tashunda came in, this was one of those things she started on right away. There was a mindset shift that needed to happen. We have this amazing mission, addressing the crisis of retirement in America. making sure those who serve us are able to retire with dignity. Such a great mission. And people who work here, we're living and breathing that mission. What we really needed to do, though, to make sure that we can be around for another 100 years, is we needed to shift our mindset. Yes, we have this mission, but we need to shift from a mission-centric mindset to a customer-centric mindset. Because it's not just about us being on a mission and offering retirement. We can actually further understand, deepen our understanding of our clients and be able to be there where they are today. But you know, that time travel piece, also imagine where they're going to be in the future and be there for them, ahead of them, so that when they're ready, we are there. And the way to do that is to get closer to them. So by doing similar exercises inside our company, that aha moment of, oh my gosh, I know how that just felt for me, and just seeing how this works. We've trained, for example, every designer how to have conversations. We're also training them how to do storytelling. My whole organization, we practice storytelling in our monthly town halls where we have researchers and designers, and we have behavior designers, design strategists, accessibility and inclusion, operations, content writers, like all of them are having opportunity to tell their stories. What's coming out of that is then when we go and run these exercises with our clients, they can show up as their full authentic self because they know the value of it and they believe in it. And usually what I have to tell people is trust the process, trust the process. But if you've been living the process and you've been doing it over and over, that trust is there. So when you sit with a client and you have the conversation,
Yes.
it can be authentic
Yes.
and real for you.
Yes. Uh, so powerful. Again, I have so many more questions. Tracy, do you have any follow-ups there?
Yeah, I'd love us to shift. A couple times you have referenced us as troublemakers, which I appreciate being, in the club. And you also mentioned that duality, right? That we can revel in the punk rock, the troublemaker, and also this can sometimes not feel great. It can be lonely or, other descriptors that we may put. We can exhibit behaviors as catalysts that sometimes can be limiting as well, right? And so I'm curious, in your movement toward the executive suite, what have you found that's been important to learn to allow you to sit in those positions? Asked another way, right? As you think about wisdom for your peers, what can stop us or hinder us when you're ready to play at that level?
There's actually a whole list of things, and I think it depends on your own nature.
Uh-huh.
We can get impatient. Especially in corporate America, things might take longer than we like. And we have to lean back into our purpose, our reason for being here, for what we're doing, and understand when to keep the pressure on and when to back up a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Readjust. Think of incremental ways to do things. Take the small wins as just as important as the big change you want to see, because it's all about building the momentum.
Mm-hmm.
It's also about understanding that it doesn't always have to come from you. If you can ignite someone else who then gets the aha and can take something and move it forward, that's also important. So we need to leave our ego at the door and understand our idea may not always be the best idea, but if we can serve as a catalyst for someone else to have their aha moment, it's just as valuable. If not even more so, because then it becomes theirs, and we don't have to worry about that not invented here syndrome that can happen, and it feels like something they can authentically own and drive, and we can move on to the next hard problem we want to solve. So truly being able to find patience, accept the little wins as just as important as the big change. An idea doesn't have to come from us. If we can help spark an idea, that's great. So let's be willing to leave our ego at the door. And I truly believe in a beginner's mind. We have to be careful not to come in as the expert. Careful not to come in as the person who knows better than you. We have to come in humble and truly, truly curious.
Mm-hmm.
Be willing to ask why. Tell me more about that. Be willing to leverage our art of influence on asking questions in such a way that helps the other person arrive at the right answers.
Mm-hmm.
It's a way of taking them on that journey of change without even perhaps realizing that was your intention. But out of it, you're going to get incredible, valuable information that helps you understand something else, and that's the art of timing. When to insert yourself, how to insert yourself, because you've been curious up front. Now you can engage what that person's motivations are, what their troubles are, their issues, their own questions. But through your continuous curiosity and question asking, you're showing you're listening, but you're also showing real interest in them. But in turn, they're getting to actually be a thought partner with you and think through things themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where they will get their ahas as well. So I think we just have to be willing to do those things. And I think it's, again, be firm with your intention, but be flexible in how this thing emerges in front of you and remain curious. So I think, starting out, I always felt like, I know what I'm doing. Let me get in there. I'm going to show you a way. I can see the future. Come on now, follow me. I'm going to get you excited. And then when nobody listens, you're like, oh, this is so not the company for me. So
It's
no.
so painful, Melora. Yes. Oh God, I feel so bad.
But on the flip side, like, remember what you're bringing to the table and remember your
Totally.
skills. And you guys have amazing tools for people to use to think through the art of timing, the art of influence, and really leverage those instincts, but be flexible in how it plays out for you. Let your ego sit to the side. We have to manage the paradox of being humble while confident.
Yes.
Both things can be true.
Mm-hmm. Is there, obviously you've had experience that has allowed this wisdom to grow. Is there any other type of shift that you've had to make to allow these things to become your default behaviors?
I had to get really clear on my values.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that I often would take challenges because it was a challenge. They didn't always connect with my values.
Mm.
And I took jobs because I'm like, oh, that's a good, hard problem to solve. I can do that. But it wasn't necessarily fitting with the kind of impact I really wanted to have.
Mm-hmm.
And if I wanted to really, I really want to leave this world in a better place than when I entered it. If I want to say I helped someone else uncover a piece of magic they had inside of themselves and they went out and changed the world, like if I want to just have any kind of positive impact, I've got to get clear on, well, what does that look like for me?
Mm-hmm.
How do I define that? How will I know when I'm living it? And how do I want to show up in it? What are my opportunities for experimenting with my leadership style and voice within that feel true to me without sacrificing my values, who I am? So I stopped just taking any challenge, and I've been very clear on the challenges I want to take on and the why underneath them and how they connect to who I am and my values.
I love how everything calms about you as you talk about that part. Like it's such a visceral witnessing to what you're talking about. The clarity that emerges when you really get to that sense of values as your decision criteria. Thank you for that.
That was an awesome insight, Tracy, because I felt the shift in my body too. It was like, oh, yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, from the deep shift, let's bring it back up a little bit. Melora knows I was excited as we were pre-call. I was like, I'm super curious about who Melora's favorite catalysts are, past or present. No pressure, Melora.
I revel in those who are innocently innovative.
Ooh.
Uh, It's often people who are breaking the rules and they don't know they are. Those who are challenging the norms and don't necessarily stepped out to do that. I love those moments because they're so real. And they're real in that they're authentic. They're coming from a real place where somebody really was trying to solve a problem. And the impact, I just love these everlasting impacts that can happen. So I have two examples for you. One is something that's called the curb cut effect. Back in the 70s at UC Berkeley, a group of students solved a really big problem that benefits everybody. They were the ones who came up with cutting into the curbs so that people with canes, wheelchairs could cross the street. Curb cut effect. But guess what? If you got a bunch of groceries in your hand, it makes it easier for you too. If you've got a stroller, it makes it easier for you too. If you're a dog walker, it makes it easier for you too. And we are living and breathing it today where it is a norm. And we don't even realize someone had to come up with that. How to cut into the curbs so that it's easier to cross the street. And that was a group of these UC Berkeley students in the 70s. So I love that. To me, that was catalytic beyond. And one of my favorite stories, and just really love the impact to our society as a whole from that. And just shows real accessibility and inclusive thinking.
Mm.
Now, another one is, okay, I'll tell you a story. When I was in the 3rd grade, I was given one of those math logic problems. If John has 5 apples and Sally has 10 apples and they're in a boat and they're eating those apples and one is going 5 miles an hour, I can keep going, right? All right, I hate those. Why do I hate them? Because in 3rd grade, I went up to my teacher and I said, I'm having trouble thinking through this. And why do I need to be able to do this kind of work? And she said, Melora, you're just never going to be able to do math.
What?
I always wanted to not only be a musician, but be an inventor. And when she said that to me, I gave up on math. Later in high school, I did get into AP geometry and AP algebra. And later I went back to grad school and did trigonometry. But I'm going to tell you something. It always was painful because those words were echoing in my ears. Well, I did finally prove her wrong. Because y'all know I've got a lot of inventions and I didn't have to do math. However, someone I liken, I relate to, I liken myself to, I don't have her beauty, I didn't have her acting skills, is Hedy Lamarr. Hedy Lamarr, beautiful actress. She did some major innovations, having a cocktail, sitting in the bathtub, comes up with something, technology that actually led us to Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and GPS.
Totally.
And she's the one who pioneered, what was it called? I'm trying to remember. It was called frequency hopping back in World War II.
Yes.
I love that. She was an actress. Who would have thought her, would think of her as an inventor of something that led to Wi-Fi, GPS, and Bluetooth. So I just innocently innovative, just saw a problem, had an idea on how to fix it, and just dared to do that.
Amazing. Amazing. And as a network engineer who worked in mobility, I love that you picked that one. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure, Melora.
Me too. I've enjoyed it too. Thank you.
And to our listeners, thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to learn more about how to create bold, powerful change in the world, check out our book, Move Fast, Break Shit, Burn Out, or go to our website, catalystconstellations.com.
And if you enjoyed this episode as much as I know I did and Shannon did, please take 10 seconds to rate it on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you're listening to your podcasts. If you have other catalysts in your life, hit the share button and send a link their way. Thanks again.